Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our new friend, Alice Quinn Rose. We're here to break down an Insomniac's delights and everything in between. This is a great collection of a couple short stories with a couple different artists, so I really love the concept already. But before we dive into that, Alice, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Cody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first things first, how did you get into creating comics? I know we were talking backstage and you were telling me you had a little bit of film history. I mean, do you want to maybe start with that?
So for university, I went to film school. And then after that, I sort of broke into the industry to sort of doing odd jobs, and then sort of like became more into a sort of like story developer department. But it got to the point where like, right now, the only projects that I get made are big franchise stuff. And so like all the stories that like I had in mind and everything, I just didn't have time to work on. So I kind of pivoted towards comics because one, they were sort of the thing that I just like read for pleasure when film was my job. And all the like ideas that I have are more visual and kind of fit into comics really well. Like it's been really freeing and like creatively fulfilling to like be able to like work on comics and to sort of like give these stories a space to exist. So
what were like some of the films that you were working on? Like what type of stories were they about?
So I was largely in the sort of development teams for the queer projects because I'm transgender. So like there's a big sort of like push culturally to like have more diverse like creators in the story departments and stuff. And a lot of the stuff like is things like in Hollywood, things can be developed for like 6 to 15 years before they get made.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's I never would have considered that. Like it's like you almost have to be a sightseer, right? Like you have to, you have to be able to tell the future with some of these movies because like they hit the social like cues and like atmosphere like perfectly, and to hear that sometimes that could be 15 years in the making. That's wow.
No, yeah, there's some scripts that like float around forever and then like eventually get made. I can't remember any off the top of my head right now, but like there's like some. Usually, what happens is a writer will write like a spec script, and then that gets like optioned to a production company or something, and they start developing it, and like that spec script might change entirely into like a different script by the end of it. For example, like there's a lot of like rumor that possibly Megamind and Despicable Me were both based on the same spec script, which if you've seen both those films you can kind of see. I could
definitely see that. Like, oh my god, that's mind-blowing.
Like but yeah, not to talk too much about how the sausage gets made in film, but so a lot of the films that I did work on were for Warner Brothers, but since the Discovery Warner Brothers merger, a lot of stuff has changed behind the scenes, and so, it's just a different environment now.
So like I guess what was the ultimate like reason you moved from film to comics? Was it just like the ease of creation, like the ability to kind of get your vision out there a little bit more like effectively, like for you, or what was kind of like your ultimate choice?
There are a few. Like one, I'd always like wanted to write comics like as an option. Like I don't see myself as just a film writer or a comic writer. I more just see myself as a fiction writer.
Okay.
I'm not as good at prose as I am visual formats, but I practice where I can. And so like I've always had a love for comics. Comics have always been like great, and honestly films are becoming more and more like comics. But one of the major reasons was that it did just seem more accessible. Like with a film, if you write a film, you then need like hundreds of, like almost an army of people to be able to like produce it and make it and star in it and like be the crew for it and like get it edited. And like even the smallest budget films are like in the 5 million bracket for a budget. Whereas like comics is much more accessible and there's much more of like an indie group doing it. And as long as like everyone's passionate about it and like everyone's able to get paid decently for their time, you can make the stories that like deserve to be made. And so that's one of the major reasons I was attracted to it. But also it's just an interesting medium in itself because it's silent but it's not, and like you have multiple images that you can see at the same time, but it's still sequential functions, and it's just a really interesting medium to play with as a writer.
And that brings us to another interesting point. I really liked, when we set up this interview, you told me you wouldn't have any preview images, and that's because you believed in paying your artists for their work, when the work's, like when it gets funded, like paying them before they even do any of the work. Give us a little bit about that, because I really like that. I love that a lot. Like that, in this industry, you see a lot of people trying to do like the, like, hey, I'll give you exposure or like, all that type of stuff. So it was a refreshing change of pace to see like you want to make sure they're paid first before they do anything.
Yeah, so we're running Insomniac with an ethical policy that no one is expected to do any work until the funds to pay them have been attained. And the reason I want to do that is because so often in every creative medium, be it like makeup artistry or the comic book industry or just anything, artists are expected to do hours and hours of work for nothing, for exposure, or for the promise of possibly getting paid one day soon, maybe, if it happens. And I just don't think that's acceptable, and it's a culture that we need to start changing, and we need to start like unifying as artists, be it writers or like drawing artists or anything else, and just sort of saying that like we're not gonna what's the word, exploit people.
Okay,
I just don't exploit anyone. I want everyone to like be paid for their time, and like come out with something that they're proud of. And like, but like if I get an artist to work on a thing and they're like having to choose between if they can like spend an hour on this or like an hour on something that it's going to like put food on their table, then I want to be the person putting the food on their table.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I always love seeing that too, when the creators, the writers are really passionate about their team and they want to make sure their team's taken care of. That is so awesome. Now diving into this too, this is in Insomniac's Delights is an awesome collection of several short stories, or you have different artists for each one. So this is a pretty big creative team, and we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into it when we dive into the Kickstarter. But give us a little bit about some of these stories. I know we were talking backstage, and some of them kind of like came from when you were creating films and writing films and such. So give us a little bit kind of about that too, like on how it didn't maybe necessarily hit the screen, but it came out a little bit better fleshed out with comics.
So Insomniac has 7 short stories, only 6 of which have been like talked about in the Kickstarter. There's like a 7th bonus one for when it gets made. And a few of them are like just stories that don't have enough there to be like a full novel or like a full feature film. But there's still stories that I've like really enjoyed, like just tinkering with in my own time. And like I just really love the breadth that we have in this book. Like there's 7 stories, and all of them are exploring a different type of horror. And I just like the freedom that short stories give you to experiment, because there is only like 5 to 12 pages of a story that you can then just play with, and then you can move on to the next one and like play with a different thing. Yeah, I don't know if that answers what you asked me. So
I know right now things are still like kind of in the funding phase and such, but do you have an idea of how many pages this is going to turn out to be?
Between like 50, I think if I remember off the top of my head, I can count back through, but off the top of my head, it's about like 50 story pages, probably about a 70-page book in total.
Wow. This is going to be one big book. That sounds so awesome. I think right now would be the perfect segue. Let's go ahead, head over to Kickstarter and see what this campaign is all about. We are currently looking at Insomniac's Delights, a comic book horror anthology that collects 7 terrifying stories to keep you up at night. Currently sitting at $3,783 of a $15,725 goal. 91 backers with 18 days left to go. And project we love. Congratulations. How are you feeling right now?
Nervous because there's still a bit to go. But like I've seen projects like get 50% of their funding in like the last day.
Yeah.
It's still fully possible. There's a bunch of people who like sit on projects and wait until the last moment to back it. So yeah, I'm still fully do it.
Is this like cover art, or is this kind of a look at what the cover could be?
Sorry, I forget their name off the top of my head. I'll tweet it out after this. But I hired a artist to do some cover art for the Kickstarter page. But honestly, I've kind of fallen in love with this cover art for the Kickstarter, and I think I'm going to contact the artist again and like pay them to rework it as the cover of the book.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I love just like an Insomniac's Delights, and then like, you know, someone stuck late at night, you know, they have their Switch on their nightstand, their phone on their nightstand. I've been there several times, not able to fall asleep, and I thought it was like just like a perfect like you know what I mean? Like it just nailed the concept perfectly, I felt.
No, yeah, I really like it. I really love what they came up with.
So let's go ahead, scroll down. So we are looking at Insomniac's Delights, which is a horror comic book anthology collecting 7 short stories written by writer Alice Quinn Rose. Each story will be illustrated by a different artist, with each bringing their own distinctive style and voice to the piece. The finished anthology promises to be an unmissable how do you say this? Melange?
The
accent over the E threw me over.
Yeah. But yeah, Melange? I don't know.
Melange? Yeah, that sounds... I am horrible with pronunciations. Of assorted terror and artistic flair. So I am excited about this. Here is a look at some of these stories. Do you want to maybe pick one out and tell us a little bit about it?
I don't know which one to pick. They're all like, you're asking me to pick a favorite child.
Let's start with how about Jenny Greenteeth?
Jenny Greenteeth Jenny Greenteeth is actually a mythological like creature from the region of England that I grew up in. And so like I've always wanted to tell a story about her, and because she's this sort of like river hag who supposedly sort of like tempts children towards the sort of like dangerous shallows of like fast rivers. A horror story was just like perfect, and so like this story is very much based around the sort of like folk horror sort of fears, and it like takes place in Scotland following an American family who want to reconnect with their Scottish roots, and then they, while hiking through the Highlands, they come across this like not like malicious actor.
That is dude, that's terrifying. Holy crap. I love that. I love how you sprinkled in like something like that as well. So what about a dog and his lady? This sounds, I mean, these are all horror, so this sounds like this is tragic.
A Dog and His Lady is one of the weirder stories. It's one of the most experimental with the format of comics. Like you have thought bubbles and speech bubbles, and we've invented an entire new type of bubble for this story. And the entire story takes place from the perspective of a dog, while with like an aging sort of like on her deathbed owner. And I won't say more because I don't want to like spoil the story. But yeah, it's from the perspective of a dog, and so like the things that are happening might not be scary to humans normally, but by putting us in the shoes of this like puppy, that it is. And I'm really like happy with how we've been able to and manipulate an audience's emotions for those pages.
No, I love that. And let's finish strong with a Cuddle Puddle. This sounds like an interesting one as well.
Cuddle Puddle is the body horror story in the collection. I just wanted to at least, I'm not a big fan of body horror, but I wanted to do at least one body horror story. And so it's just this sort of like, it goes from 0 to 100, like within a page. Like, big, bombastic, sort of like slightly humorous, but still also like kind of chilling body horror story about this like parasite that attacks this couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I love all the different like types of horror in this as well. It's not like just one distinctive like horror story. It's like you have different like types of horror, different genres of horror. So this sounds awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these reward tiers as well. So you get behind the scenes access. And this is all in pounds, correct?
Yes, it is.
So for £5, you can read the story with access to the scripts and behind the scene updates. So that is so awesome. Oh, go ahead. Sorry,
just on the pound thing. For Americans, it's about 1-for-1 at the moment. Just as an FYI to people.
I gotcha. So give us a little bit about the scripts and behind the scene updates. Like, is this just kind of showing readers a little bit of along the way of like the process?
Yeah, so like as when production gets underway, when we have the funds to be able to like pay everyone, I'll be like kind of a newsletter type thing, posting regular updates for of like pages in progress and how things are happening, just to keep like everyone informed. It's like the behind the scenes access like gets you access to all of that, so you can see like the sort of like inked pages and stuff like that. You won't have the full stories, but you're part of the process and you're seeing everything that's happening.
Yeah. And then I mean, for £5 more, you get one story, a PDF of one completed story. At 15, you get the digital book, so print ready PDF copy of the final book. So for $5 more. So I mean, these are really accessible tiers, I think. I mean, just to get you kind of a little taste of the script, £5, one story, 10. £5 more, you get the digital book. At £20, you get your name in the book. At £25, we get the printed copy of the book. So, and you said that is going to be roughly 70 pages?
Yes, like with cover and like over everything else, yeah.
We have the digital and printed bundle at £35, and then a printed double pack. So 2 printed paperbacks for £45. For those of you who haven't done Christmas shopping yet, you still got 1 month left.
Yeah.
Get your loved ones a copy. You still have some time. This is
£5 if you get the double pack rather than just buying 2 books.
Gotcha. And then right here, I love this too. Advertise your project for £50. So you get a half-page ad spot. Where's this going to be located at in the book?
I've been like working through the scripts, been trying to figure out where like page turns can happen. I want the ads to be between stories, rather than interrupting stories. So like that's probably where those ads will be. Like between each. Yeah. I don't like a comic and like I have to move through an ad to continue the story.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. At £100, become a background character. So get drawn in the book as a background character. Are they going to have like any like certain roles or any like speech like bubbles or anything, or can you give us a little bit about that, or is that still to be determined yet?
So how I've determined the difference between a background character and a main character, because as you can see, the next one is be drawn in as a main character, is so some of the stories are completely silent. So it is more just who is the focus of the story. Background characters might have lines, but they're the ones who aren't like the protagonists or the antagonists or like the focus of the story. It's like pretty much any character who isn't like the protagonist is that. Yeah. No,
I gotcha. And then some items will be added as limited tiers once certain stretch goals have been unlocked as well. So we have some of these stretch goals right here. At £14,000, the Kickstarter exclusive variant cover.
Yeah.
At £15,500, the illustrated cover pages for each story instead of text only title pages.
Yeah. So to explain that one, the base book is that we're planning is just each story will start with just like a title page that has like the title of the story and the credits of who worked on it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we get to that stretch goal, then we can afford to like pay artists, like cover artists, to give the story its own cover.
Oh, that'll be really cool. That'd be awesome. And at 1,000 more pounds, at 16,500, we have the hardback. So get a hardback print edition of this. At 17,000 pounds, we have the art print, so which is going to be a collection of art prints added as an add-on. And then finally, we're going to be ending it with the sticker pack at 17,500 pounds, a pack of stickers. So will the art print and the sticker pack, those are going to be add-on tiers that you can add on?
Yeah,
Okay.
if we get there, but I don't know if we're going to get through all those stretch goals.
And then is this like a print right here, or like a sticker, or what are we looking at right here?
Some art that I commissioned for the Kickstarter.
I gotcha. This looks really trippy too. I love this.
Yeah.
You have like the butcher knife, and it looks like there's like a reflection in the butcher knife.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, this is good. And then of course we have Meet the Team. So we've been chatting with Alice. Let's go ahead and start breaking down the rest of the team. So if you want to go ahead and give us a little bit about Joe Winter.
So Joe Winter is a TTRPG game designer. She's worked on multiple Kickstarter campaigns that have like been successful, and like is experienced in publishing and fulfillment. And so like she's been helping a lot, and will help much more when the Kickstarter's completed in the fulfillment process and the printing process, which is something that I don't have complete experience with, but she's very experienced in it.
And if that can, like, you know, running the campaign, you know, advertising it is one thing. This is a whole different other ballpark too. I don't understand how you creators do it. You have to, you all have to wear so many different hats in order to get your books made, and it just seems like it's so much to do.
Yeah, be a writer. Honestly.
So if you want, what I'll do is I'll just scroll down, and you can kind of just name off your creative team as we scroll.
Yeah. So Juan Santiago Jr. Really gorgeous, sort of like black and white artistic style. I should have given you some images so I could show these off. I'm trying to remember what stories each person's doing, just off the top of my head. I really should.
So Spencer and Locke in the upcoming Final Gamble, I think, is what is said right here for some of the work that they've done.
Which Insomniac stories they're doing.
Sorry.
Yes, don't worry. Yeah, so they're doing the Child, which is the ghost sort of like haunting story. It's going to be like really cool in this sort of like nice sort of like black and white shaded style, with like, and one does a bunch of really cool monster designs. If you check out his story, The Curse of the Eel, there's a bunch of like really cool, almost like Beetlejuice-esque like monster designs. So it's going to be a really interesting like story with that ghost story, because there's a really freaky monster that came to me in a nightmare, and I put it in this book. Then we have Sleep Talk, who's doing Cuddle Puddle, and they just have, you can see their style in her picture, but like it's there. It's just like just gorgeous graphic sketchy style with just a lot of depth. She's currently working on her own book at the moment, which a bunch of art has been chronicled on her Instagram, and it just looks stunning.
I wish I could. I get so jealous of art, and I know like for artists and art, you have to, the thing is you just got to do it. You got to do it to get better at it, and it's just like I'm too much of a perfectionist. I can't. I look at it and I'm like, this ain't good.
Yeah,
like I can't do this.
Yeah. Yeah, then we have Eamon Winkle, who has this stunning sort of like hyper detailed style. He posts a lot of like covers that he does on his Instagram, and like there's a bunch of sort of like Hellboy and sort of like Tales from the Crypt type stuff. Like the story he's doing is Jenny Greenteeth, and I'm just really excited to see the sort of like hyper detailed, sort of like grotesque version of Jenny Greenteeth, like stalking these Americans who are traipsing through the Scottish Highlands.
That's going to be so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's going to be so awesome. And then right here is a familiar face that we've had on the show before, too. I was really excited when I seen Brendan was going to be working with you on this.
Yeah, Brendan's great. And like, he's doing A Dog and His Lady, and because it's from the perspective of a dog, Brendan's like really out there use of color is going to be invaluable to that project, and like really bring to life like and put us in the shoes of a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited for it.
No, it's gonna be awesome. I'm really excited for that too. And so we have Valentine Smith.
Valentine Smith is doing I keep forgetting all the names of the stories. The Creep. And Valentine uses a lot of like halftone shading, and like has this very sort of like almost 50s style vibe. If you've read Blade Maidens, which is the comic she draws, it's just this really gorgeous sort of like timeless style that I'm really excited to see done with The Creep, because The Creep is this like timeless story of like urban living, of like living on the ground floor in a city, and just like all the terror that comes of just trying to get to sleep at night.
And then last but not least, the last of the creative team involved.
Yes, Marina is doing The Tale of Bison Manor, which is this kind of Addams Family sort of like Chainsaw Massacre-esque story, where a bunch of people come to a dinner party, and her style is this very block colors and like bold outlines, and it's going to bring this sort of like mid-century setting, like mid-century American setting to life in like a really just clean and like beautiful way. And I'm just really excited to work with all of them, and they all deserve to be paid as much as we can possibly pay them. So like, yeah, I'm just the Kickstarter is like for the printing costs and to pay the artists, and it's like, yeah, I'm just really excited to work with everyone.
And then right here, once again, everyone watching, the link to the Kickstarter, be sure to back. And if you're unable to back, simply sharing it works just as well. Alice, after going through that Kickstarter in its entirety, what would you like to say to anyone who might be on the fence about backing? You know, someone who's just kind of teetering, you know, on that fence. You know, if you just had a few seconds to kind of say something to them, what would it be?
I mean, the main thing with this project is we are trying to do it as ethically as possible, and like in doing that, trying to like change the culture around how artists are treated in the creative industries, like how we're treated as disposable and everything. And I want everyone to be paid as much as they possibly can. And these stories are gorgeous. They are sparkling. They're ordered in a way that like gives the entire book this like flow of tension. And everyone's putting so much work and effort, and all the styles are gorgeous. Honestly, if you're a fan of horror, or you know someone who's a fan of horror, you'll just like be in for a real treat with this book. And there's like so much story there for you.
Oh, that is awesome. And if you have trouble sleeping, this will help keep you up late at night. So outside of this anthology, what's next for you? Do you have anything like planned in the future, or is this just kind of your main focus right now?
This is like so I've got two things on. There's this, and then there's a graphic novel, teen horror graphic novel that I have a pitch meeting next year to pitch. Right now, just working on the pitch deck, and like lock down an artist onto the project. But yeah, so that's going to be one of the next big things, is that teen horror.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it.
And I mean, going from an anthology to a graphic novel, I'm sure that's going to be a nice little jump for you writing wise as well, right? Instead of several short stories, one big story, I'm sure that's going to be very exciting to kind of be able to, you know, kind of stretch your writing ability out and put some work in.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun just jumping from story. I have ADHD, and so like working on like 7 different stories at once and bouncing between them has been like really valuable for me, because it just keeps me engaged in writing constantly. But honestly, when I write larger stories, it does kind of feel almost like writing just multiple short stories that all string together.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's like what chapters are, isn't it? And so yeah, I'm excited for the new challenges of like trying to keep everything. There's many more plates to spin in a larger story, basically.
This has been such an awesome talk. I appreciate you swinging by, breaking down this awesome Kickstarter. Before we let you go, though, I got to ask for one piece of advice for anyone who might be new that is watching. And that is for anyone out there struggling with writing or doing art or anything in between. What type of advice would you have for them to help them just get motivated and just starting and just like, sitting down, putting the paper down and just getting going with it?
So typically most people who ask me for advice, like ask where all my ideas come from or how I'm able to string stuff together so much. And the main thing that has given me that ability is just I've worshipped and consumed as many stories as possible. Like, be it the Canterbury Tales from all the way back in the 1500s to like Victorian fiction to movies now. Just read as widely as you can, consume as many different versions of media as you can, and pay attention to how the stories flow and how you can break them down. And then when you're trying to work on your own stories, they seem much more manageable because you're just breaking them down into like each scene or into each sequence, and it's much less daunting than just trying to write 200 pages. You're just trying to write this scene, which is only like 7 pages, and then the next scene and the next scene, and it just makes it much more manageable.
That and sometimes just kind of like thinking about it outside of the box helps so much more. I know sometimes I struggle with doing comic book reviews. I get my edits back and there's just a long list. If you all think my speech pronunciations are horrible, wait till you see how I string together words. And my editor will be going ham, and I just look at it, I'm like, this is overwhelming, but like knocking out just a few a day can get it done. Instead of me kind of just staring at it for 2 weeks, I can take 3 days, space it out, and get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I've met so many writers who, when they watch a movie or read a book, they have like all these notes on like how they would have edited it to make it better. But then the same writers struggle to apply that same skill to their own work.
Yeah.
But it's like, you have that skill. You're able to like look at something objectively and be like, well, this is what it needs. And it's like being able to try and treat your own work as like a third party's work is a really valuable skill to be able to like practice.
No, that is awesome. Alice, thank you so much for swinging by, breaking down in Insomniac's delights. Everyone watching, right here is the link one more time for you to check out and share. This has been such an awesome podcast. I appreciate all the advice and everything in between. Everyone watching, this has been a lovely Thursday. I hope you all have a fantastic day, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.